But back to the city council meeting. Yeah, I was listening too, and I think it started at 10 a.m., right? And literally by 1 o'clock is when they actually started getting to city business, because they spent that first 3 hours blowing each other.
Yeah. Should we pull up our Discord so we can remember all the stuff we were commenting about?
If you can find it on that, yeah. Can you bring that up? Because I've got so many screens up on this end.
Let me see if I can find it in here.
It was a blow. Speaking of them blowing each other for 3 hours, it was a blow by blow on our end. I mean, we were chatting back and forth. It's like, when in the fuck are they going to get to the business of the meeting, right? They were congratulating. I guess there was an outgoing alderman. Then they had this little Timmy come in, and they were congratulating him. And
then of course on the Facebook version of the live stream, they were limiting which comments would be staying up. So we're going to talk about that. You could post a comment, and the comments are up there on the page. But while you're watching the live stream, someone or something was actively taking them down. And,
so I will share. I was from the get-go. When the city council meeting started, I was in the Facebook live chat, and my first comment was, because I forgot that the city council meeting was starting, but it was like, in your Facebook, you get the alert. The mayor's office is releasing a video. So my first comment in the chat was, hopefully she'll be announcing her resignation. Because, I like to heckle our public officials because they earn that heckling. But the city council meeting got started.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sent you a link from where the conversation starts, and it appropriately has the graphic you
in our Slack
made. Yeah.
All right, I'm opening Slack on this end in the hopes that I don't.
Or actually, that was 11:57 a.m. Okay, so that wasn't even. No, that was maybe an hour in. But I think it was crazy because all they were basically just congratulating each other and welcoming the new member and saying farewell to the old members. And they're sitting in their seats with their masks over their faces. And then they would get up to the microphone and take the mask off. And I'm like, okay, so standing in front of a microphone will prevent your exhaling from reaching people? Is that what's going on there? I'm like, it was ridiculous.
And it was for 3 hours. That's what struck me. 3 hours of this bullshit of them backslapping and glad handing each other. I mean, I really thought it was embarrassing, and it speaks to the fact that this is why we get nothing done here. And I am scrambling to kind of get stuff up on this end. Hang on a second. I don't want to lose my screens. I realized there were some other windows open that we don't need. There we go. And my Slack is reloading. A lot of system resources being sucked up here. But yeah, they were, and so here, you know what? Before we get to the comments back and forth. Okay. So here's what happened. I actually have some of these screens up. So let me see if I can make sure. So here's what happened. Be patient, everybody. I'm jumping. Okay. So here's the first thing I'm posting my comments, and then I'm realizing, wait a minute, they're not showing. And then I get this message. You can't use this feature right now. We limit how often you can post, comment, or do other things in a given amount of time in order to help protect the community from spam. You can try again later.
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
If you think this doesn't go against our community standards, let us know. Well, you know me, I did. Where is it? I wrote them and I said, I was posting critical comments of Mayor Lori Lightfoot during today's city council live stream, many of which I screen grabbed to prove I posted them. And I only captured this screen grab. But this is the other thing that came up. I was apparently violating community standards. And this is all going to go somewhere, people, so bear with me. These policies come from feedback from people on Facebook and the advice of experts. These policies include different views. I was being accused of bullying and harassment because I was heckling her. And I was also okay, so let's get past the heckling. Obviously, I was having a little bit of fun. But I was also posting some comments specifically to one story that I saw this week that we actually talked about in the live chat. I'm sorry,
Jerry, before we get into that,
yeah,
can we talk about bullying and harassment on social media platforms?
Yes.
Just for a second. Okay. Those policies are supposed to be for individuals who are members of the website. They are not there to protect public officials. Public officials need to be on a different in a different type of what's the word? They have to be treated differently.
They have to be held. They're supposed to be held accountable. Plus,
yeah,
there are laws that mandate if you are a constituent, and I'm actually identified as a constituent when I comment in Facebook chats for live streams from our local elected representatives. Apparently, it's against the law for one of our representatives to decide to censor or restrict what we share on their social media pages, because we're supposed to be able to give them that feedback. So while I'm in the Facebook chat for the city council meeting and my comments are disappearing, that means there's somebody on the other end. And I don't think it's at Facebook. It's somebody who's in charge of the live streaming from city council, deciding to silence the dissent or criticism from anybody, any constituent in the live chat, to eliminate any dissent, eliminate any criticism, because she's thin-skinned and she doesn't want, she will not allow any dissent or criticism of anything that she's doing, because, we're bullying and harassing her because she's a lesbian woman of color. It's basically what she would claim, when that has nothing to, I don't care if she's polka dot. She's a horrible leader. I don't care if she's white. We are allowed to criticize our elected representatives. So one of the things that I'd mentioned in that city council chat was in relation to this story. I saw this come up. Chicago Department of Transportation is handing out more bicycles and equipment as part of Chicago's free bike program. Okay. I saw this story and I'm like, number one, I thought we're broke. Number two, giving out free bicycles is more important than, I don't know, perhaps acquiring all the vacant buildings across the city to provide some adequate housing for people sleeping in tents or under bridges. That was the one comment that I, passed beyond the heckling. I was just like, why is CDOT doing this instead of paying attention to our other problems? Look, the CDOT thing, handing out bicycles, that's to curry voter favoritism for votes. That's what that's about. Because, we have money. So and you know what? That was not heckling. That was a legitimate criticism. Boom, disappeared. And, this isn't everybody, despite the fact some people might claim this. It's not all about me. Let me zoom in here. Here was a comment that I managed to capture before it got scrubbed. Lightfoot blocked me on Facebook because she can't handle the truth. So it's very, very clear that Lightfoot's flunkies, I guess at the city council, I don't know, the media control where they live stream the city council meetings, are actively eliminating comments that are critical of the mayor beyond the regular heckling. Well, you know me, Ed. You know what I did after this? I went to the ACLU and I filed a complaint. At ACLU, Illinois. Now, I probably will not hear from them because they're very, they're I'm sure overlogged with the amount of complaints that they get. But I figured, just on principle, on behalf of myself and anybody else on Facebook that makes comments in Facebook chats at city council meetings or any other municipal meetings, the fact that we are being silenced, the fact that we're being censored when we are sharing legitimate concerns, is a First Amendment civil rights violation. So I have not heard back from the Illinois ACLU yet, but I shared with them, hey, I was commenting on the Chicago City Council meeting. Some of my comments that were critical of the mayor got scrubbed, disappeared. This is not about Facebook policy. I was not bullying. I was not harassing. This is clear overreach by the mayor's department that is handling social media live streams. So now this all kind of connects with another story that I am getting up in the tabs here to share with you all. While we were going to cover the story about public housing in Chicago being betrayed, that was one of the matters covered at the city council meeting. Since we're talking about the censorship, let's go first into our story regarding Chicago Media Corps bias. We're out here criticizing the mayor and the way she's mishandling things. Unfortunately, the Chicago Media Corps, and I'm calling it corpse, not core, is seemingly not. They're seemingly, I think, supporting the mayor. They're not as critical of the mayor as we would hope they would be. This came on Twitter from the Chicago Contrarian. For those who may remain skeptical about bias among Chicago's press corps, during media availability yesterday, Chicago's mayor was not asked one question about the turmoil downtown last weekend. Not one. Chicago media has become Lightfoot's cheering section. So let's go to the video.
Well, yeah, before you hit the video, the one guy who would have lost his press credentials recently. Remember that?
Right.
The guy, yeah. I forget what his name was. But yeah, I mean, the one guy who actually asks her the tough questions got his press.
And that's what she's doing. She's a dictator. When you and you know what, perhaps, Ed, maybe the reason she didn't get challenged at this particular meeting is because members of the press corps were worried about losing their credentials the same way. I wouldn't put it past the concern that what do most reporters always worry about? Access. If Rahm Emanuel was notorious for his thin skin and basically shutting interviews down when someone was asking him, you know, why are you sending your kids to a private school instead of sending them to Chicago public schools if they're so great? My kids are off limits. No, they're not. This isn't about your kids. And it's not about criticizing your kids. It's about why are you as a parent making this choice when you're basically not doing the things that should make Chicago public schools safer and more valuable to Chicago students. Clearly, as the mayor of Chicago, who didn't even live here, he had a let's wind back the time machine a little bit to the 9-digit midget. The 9-digit midget.
Before you get there, William J. Kelly was the journalist. And
okay,
he's suing Lightfoot.
Good
for revoking his press credentials.
I don't have the money to sue her for what happened on Facebook, but I'm hoping the ACLU will at least be responsive to what I'm pointing out to them as well as what other people are going through. Rahm Emanuel, to wind back the time machine, was able to run for the mayor of Chicago. He wasn't living here. He was in Washington, but he owned a house in Ravenswood that he was renting to somebody. And despite the fact he was renting that property to somebody, his wife had her wedding dress and some other things in the basement, right? Ironically, there was a Chicago Sun-Times newspaper machine in the basement that you really can't purchase. So there was some question as to like, where did Rahm get that Chicago Sun-Times newspaper machine that had newspapers of Obama winning the election? Anyway, so Rahm used the fact that he had the Ravenswood home as the means by claiming he was still living in Chicago after getting rid of the tenant and basically being installed as mayor, right? Because Washington didn't want him anymore. So they basically, Washington's gain getting rid of him was our loss.
No, Rahm did all the damage he could do in D.C. He got rid of the public option. He basically made a transition to a national healthcare system impossible. And you can also thank his brother for that, probably, since he's a doctor. It's a gigantic machine with a bunch of cogs, and all we need to do is find a way to dislodge them. But now they're all like doing everything they possibly can to get away with everything. This guy, wait, hold on. We point.
You got to take him that way so he doesn't cover you.
This guy right here, we can't do nothing about him. He's in Japan now.
He is. Although, I don't think he's quite out of our reach.
I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch.
I ducked. You can't catch me, sucker.
But getting back to the point, Rahm Emanuel basically, well, actually, I can't say it was just him because Daley was pretty authoritarian before him. But I think Rahm managed to really fine tune the concept of the authoritarian Chicago mayor. And Lightfoot is now Rahm 2.0, just 2 inches shorter, as I like to say. You know, continuing to
actual size.
There she is. Continuing to control the narrative and not allow journalists to ask her tough questions that they should be asking her.